be the one mic?
I mean, that's a tough one because they range, and every microphone has its own personality. For my friends who do photography, the best analogy is like microphones are like lenses. You have some that are very technical and they focus very quickly and very crisply and sharply, and some are a little fuzzy and they don't really do the job so great on a technical standpoint, but they have a character and they have a look to them. Uh, Older microphones have a sound to them, newer microphones have a sound to them, and I'm a firm believer in everything sounds like something. So there's no wrong answer. It's really just a matter of making a choice of what's appropriate for this sound. Another guideline that I kind of go by is if it's a bright instrument or a bright source, I try to use a dark microphone. And by that I mean if the sound has a very big top end, like a tambourine, I'll use a microphone that has a kind of closed off top end. It's a little bit, uh, the common usage is lighter and darker. So bright source, dark microphone, dark source, bright microphone. Those things tend to help you get a sound without having to do a bunch of EQ. So I say all that to point to there's probably three greatest hits that I would count as if you have a studio, you really aren't doing anything until you have three basic microphones, and it's obviously a dynamic mic, a ribbon mic, and a condenser mic. And of those three, I think the SM57 Shure is the dynamic mic with the most utility. The Coles 4038 ribbon mic is the ribbon mic with the most utility, and the condenser mic with the most utility, probably this U87 Neumann. This particular one is vintage. I think it's like late 70s, early 80s. I got this from a studio here in town that went out of business. Um, just a crazy, useful microphone. It sounds good on everything. Um, the the concept of a lens is really in play here because this is like one of those old Nikon lenses that just has a look. Yes, there are more technically accurate microphones. There are microphones that are more linear, and the modern stuff tends to be cleaner and less noisy. But this just has a thing. Great on vocals, great on drums, great on acoustic guitar, great on electric guitar amp, great on percussion. If you got to record tabla, this is your guy. If you got to record flamenco guitar, this is your guy. If you got to record David Lee Roth, this is your guy. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a solid state microphone. It's not tube. So it has a very quick response time. It's large diaphragm, so it has a nice, big, beautiful, low frequency response. And interesting thing about U87s these days is that they are being pirated. They're so popular that there are knockoffs being made in China, and they have gone as far. It's like a fake Louis Vuitton bag or a fake Goyard bag. They've gone as far as to recreate the box it comes in, so you think you're getting the real thing, all the way down to the box and the label on the box. But there's ways to determine if they're real or not. There's people who are better at that than me. I tend to stick with the vintage stuff because they don't fake that stuff. It's another reason that reinforces the vintage stuff over the modern stuff. But yeah, I would say of them all, Desert Island microphone, if I had to pick one, it's probably a Neumann U87. Probably one from anywhere in the late 60s to the early 80s is probably just fine. Short answer.
Can you give us a little background on that particular mic?
Let's see. History of this particular microphone. There was a recording studio in Old Metairie called Night Recording Studios, owned by a guy named Tracy Borges. I got to meet him a couple times. Never got to work with him, but he built his studio in the 60s. It was like a cinder block building built onto the back of a house on Metairie Road. And as he got older, the building fell into disrepair, and his kids were kind of figuring out what to do with the whole situation. And he passed a couple years ago, and through a friend of a friend, I got connected to them. And long boring story, this ended up in my hands. This was one of four or three that he had at the studio, and I got the pick of the litter. One of the things that you're kind of up against with vintage microphones and really anything uh, that's handmade to some degree. This was built in a factory, but there was a large part of it was built by hand. Um, you have little inconsistencies from model to model. There's an old joke about this particular model was made on a Friday afternoon. Everybody was ready to punch out. This model was made on a Monday morning, so it's perfect. Everybody was sober and bright-eyed when they made it. So you have those little inconsistencies even amongst a very quality controlled microphone like the U87 is. But because of that, when you had multiple U87s, you would audition them and listen to them and give little clues to yourself to remember, oh, this is the one that sounds better on vocals. This is the one that sounds better on guitars. 1176s, you do that a lot too. Up at Studio in the Country, when we were working out a studio in the country, they had two 1176s, and one of them sounded great on kick drum, one of them sounded great on guitar, and we almost never questioned that. We always would use that one on kick drum and that one on electric guitar, and U87s were kind of the same way. So Tracy, I guess when he bought this one, he put a night recording studio sticker on it, and he put his notes on here. This was number one. This was what he thought was the best sounding one. And he wrote on here, hotter, extra bass, and highs. Best full frequency U87 exclamation point. So this was probably a quick way for him to look into his mic locker and go, that's my primo. That's my, my alpha dog. And so I got the pick of the litter when I got to take one home with me and buy it from the family. So that this particular one. Now, as far as what was recorded on it, it's hard to say. He wasn't a consistent note keeper, or at least that ended up after he was gone. That we could resurrect, that we could recreate historically. But there's some stuff on YouTube. If you search Tracy Borges and Night Recording Studio, you find some local New Orleans funk from the 60s and 70s. But as far as this particular microphone, I can't say for sure. I've only had it for about 5 years. And yeah, I don't think I've recorded any legends on it yet, but I just love this particular one. I do have another one that came from Keith Keller's studio. It did all the Iguanas records and King Sunny Ade. And that one sounds also amazing, but that's my guy. I just love that one more than anything.
Awesome. Glad I asked.